About a year ago, you had just announced the Zwift Ride. It's this $1,300 smart bike to get more people on the app. Has it worked?
Yeah, we started the business as a software company, really discounting the hardware. We didn't want to be in the hardware business, but it's just such an important part of the overall experience. And I think after years of working hard and investing in hardware, I think we really landed a product that resonates with the masses. So it's been very successful. This is our second year, and the sales have been very, very strong so far.
Talk to us a little bit about how strong they've been. Can you give us some idea in terms of growth year over year? What kind of momentum you're seeing? What kind of growth?
Yeah, so the hardware business is really just to help facilitate the onboarding. We probably spent the last 10 years figuring out how to just remove friction in the whole onboarding and getting customers to just get on Zwift. So we see this as just a huge opportunity as we sort of widen the audience from sort of the core cycling enthusiast to sort of a broader audience that just likes to ride bikes and like to exercise indoors, and cycling happens to be one of the one of the most the easiest and the safest, and one that is most enjoyable, I think, out of all the different activities that are out there. But in terms of growth, we are seeing really a strong growth in our both in our subscription and our revenues. So yeah, we think that the hardware is an important aspect of that. I think one of the early investor that I spoke to, this was like almost 10 years ago. He said to me that the right price point for this hardware, this is the trainer part, which you attach to the bike. Back then, he said $500 is the right price point. And it's taken us 10 years, a lawsuit, lots of investment in hardware to finally get to that price point. And I can tell you that it's finally working.
How much? Well, go ahead, Carol.
Well, I know you're a private company, and so you don't necessarily have to reveal tons of metrics, but we are Bloomberg, and I am curious about what kind of growth you've seen in terms of bike sales, because it does sound like it's an important part, or your top line overall, how much it's growing.
Yeah, so we've seen, revenues grow, double digit growth.
Okay.
We're sort of not in that phase of growing, doubling our business every year. I mean, we had a crazy growth during COVID years. I think now we're in sort of responsible growth. And I think, over the last few years, we sort of went through the painful adjustment of making sure that the business is right size, and the business is really strong now. We're very profitable. And we have, plenty of capital to invest in all sorts of areas. It was a blessing it was a blessing that we were able to raise a lot of capital. I don't think capital is the issue anymore.
Huh.
It's really just where do we want to place our bets, and I think it's business the old-fashioned way, right?
It's funny. Every time I've spoken to you year after year, you've said you don't have to raise more capital. You don't have to raise more capital.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I've heard you say that you're very profitable, though.
That's right. This isn't the first year we're profitable, but this is the first year we are, I'd say, profitable in a meaningful sense. And that's because we've just become more efficient as a business. We've made a number of mistakes in the past, and I think now we know we're really good at, and we're focused and investing in those areas. And I think we're not going to start making speculative investments like we did back perhaps a few years ago.
So does that mean an IPO
Mhm.
is on the horizon?
I think for us, we need some more time to grow into a story like that. I think what we just need to do is just create a great business, great product experience. And I think hardware is a big part of that. I think they're exciting. We have an exciting product roadmap, both on the software and the hardware side. I think for us going forward, it's got to be side by side, but our focus will remain for the foreseeable future around the experience of cycling.
So what does that roadmap look like?
Well, I mean, there's just so much we can do on the product side, the product experience side, and AI is something that we're really investing heavily in. I think many people show up, unbeknownst to them, perhaps, to get into shape. And I think I think we can do a much better job in demonstrating how they can improve, quantify those metrics, and showing progress. I think every Zwifter who shows up on Zwift should be recommended the best content, given what they've done, perhaps the day before, the week before, the month before. So we're really investing in training and personalized training. So this is where AI comes in, and this is something that we'll start delivering this fall.
Hey, before we go, Eric, we've just got about a minute or under a minute. How does the new New York City map kind of fit into all of what you were saying?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm super excited. When we launched the business, we didn't start with Central Park. So we landed that a number of years ago, and this is the first expansion of the city. I'm really excited. We're going to Brooklyn. We're going to Times Square. And so this is a bit of nostalgia for me. This is my playground for many, many years. So we're here in New York, activating and launching the expansion.